Hey there, this is D, and I just got done taking a long walk around the plaza here at Santa Fe, and getting some exercise, and also some shopping for folks back home, and just to get out and see some of the sights and stuff. I had lunch outside, lunch while I was walking around, and it was halfway decent weather here yet. We're still in the 30s here, so not the sub below zero north where I'm trying to get to. I did talk to my wife this morning, and they are getting a bunch of snow and some blowing snow, and it's pretty nasty up there. So I was wise to stay here and wait it out one more day before I hit the road to get home. I heard some interesting dialogue. I do sometimes eavesdrop. I don't intentionally do that, but you overhear things on the street, and sometimes I like to, just comment on it or something. I heard three quips from people as I was walking by, and the first one was a woman who she said, "I would love to have a Mercedes SL 550, but I'm still paying off the Porsche Roadster." I think I'm in an expensive place when I hear things like that. I think downtown Santa Fe has some shops and galleries that do attract some people that are far more financially off than me and many of us. The second one was a guy on his phone, and he said, "I mean, that desert sky last night was just amazing," referring to the desert sky here in Santa Fe at night and all the stars that you can see. And the third one was a woman that I walked by, and she was talking to a friend on a stoop. She said, I don't need to be yucky just because everyone else is yucky. I don't want to feel yucky." And in context, I think she was referring to the fact that, just the whole toxicity, the whole, negativity out there, and that, she's trying to be positive even though everybody else isn't, And I just thought each one of those was an interesting observation, of the three. I mean, the one in the middle is one that I think hit me the most, was the man who said, he took the time he was telling a friend of his back home or somebody, I don't know, somebody on the phone, that the desert sky was amazing last night. And of all these people, I think he's the one who was really appreciating the moment, appreciating where he is, appreciating being grateful for what he experienced, and I think sharing that with somebody else. And I thought that was really poignant, and it kind of got to me. I had a rough morning leading up to it. I broke down, and all my anxieties and emotions and everything hit me. I was watching the end of a movie that triggered me, and sometimes the thing just triggers you. It was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, if you've ever seen that one, and it's a classic ending, and it reminded me a lot of both my wife and also of my dad, with Spencer Tracy. So it's just one. They were showing it for MLK Day. Today is Martin Luther King's birthday, and they were showing a series of movies with Sidney Poitier. And for those who don't know, it's a classic Trek from the 50s, I think, or 60s, and Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, and Sidney Poitier. But it was just sometimes it's something like that. It's often a movie or something that you get into, and all of a sudden that's the release. Since I came off the benzodiazepines, I've really learned to value the benefits of an emotional release. And by that I mean sobbing and crying and just letting it all out. Now, for those of us who go to the extreme with that, and it's very powerful, we also have to be careful not to hyperventilate. I didn't realize you could do this until a few years ago, coming off the benzodiazepines, but I started to find out I couldn't breathe anymore, and I was crying so hard, sobbing so hard from a guttural standpoint that I could not breathe, and that'll freak you out really quick, and all you could do was try to just stop and slowly try to get breath back. So now I've learned to work around that now, and unfortunately it makes me limited in a little bit of how much I can give into the power of that emotional release, but I let it out, and then I take a deep breath in, slow one, and then I let it out, and then I take a deep breath in. I do this as long as it's still coming, and that does seem to avoid the hyperventilation. I was talking to a friend here at Baton Rouge who I stopped by and chatted with, and she was mentioning how that's exactly what she went through. It was actually illuminating for me, and I don't know if illuminating is the right word. It was, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It felt good to know that, not that she was experiencing it, but that this is not that strange, and this is something common, either common with anybody who gets into really strong emotional releases like that, or maybe more common to people who have come off of benzodiazepines, the drug I was on for 12 years. I'm not sure if, where that comes from, but it's really, I think it's something to pay attention to, especially as men. And I do want to talk about some men's issues on this because, boy, I tell you, I mean, I think men and women equally are really suffering, but I don't know if it is equal. I mean, men are really suffering right now, and I don't know, and it's one that's true to my heart because as a man, I understand some of the issues, and it just feels like men are so lost right now, so completely lost in the world. And I hear this from a lot of women. I hear this from a lot of friends who have told me, or people I work with on the other podcasts and stuff, who have shared with me how the men in their lives are really struggling. And it's often the women, because the men often were not always great at sharing that. So the women would often share that with me. And I'm seeing that more and more. So it definitely, I'm definitely talking through a lot of issues, mostly issues that are equal to both genders. But I really want to work with, I also want to make sure I don't ignore the loneliness and the isolation that men are in particular are dealing with right now. But when I say that, one of the things that men have, and it's part training and it's part who we are, but we do suppress our emotions, I think, more than some women. Not all. This is totally on on average basis. I am not making, I realize there's some women that don't have nearly the emotions of some men. I'm a more emotional man, I'll admit that, compared to some other men. But I do think we suppress. We've been taught not to feel. We've been taught not to express our emotions, especially in public. And so the ability to release those, there's a wall. It's really hard for anybody who's been taught not to do that, man or woman or anybody, that you need to let those out, and because they're always there. I'm dealing with grief from the loss of my parents, my cousin, my dog. All that happened in a year and a half for me, and that was 2 years ago now, and I never really dealt with it, and I'm just processing it. And so in this movie that I watched, Spencer Tracy reminded me a lot of my dad, and then also at the same time he was talking about how the love he still feels for his wife of 50, 60 years, and how much I missed my wife because I've been gone for 2.5 weeks. And so both of those hit me at the same time, and it was just a release, and I just let it happen, and I was just crying and bawling, and it kind of came out a couple times after that again, and I let it. I encouraged it because I needed that. It's been a very stressful trip trying to get home. The driving, I'm on, pins and needles sometimes, driving in certain conditions, through ice and other stuff. And it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Not a lot, maybe not a lot for some people, but for somebody who deals with chronic anxiety, for somebody who has anxiety about these things and is pushing themselves to do these things. I love road trips, but road trips on my own, over too long, and dealing with bad weather and all these, and places I really don't know and didn't expect to go, it adds up. And I'd been in this elevated, anxious state for probably 3 or 4 weeks now. And I know I just need to get home. So today was good. I had a really good release this morning. I went out, and I'm trying to do everything right today if I can. I went out and exercised by walking around and shopping for a long time. And then I went and got a little lunch. And then I hit the grocery store, and I came back here. I tried to take a nap. That rarely works for me, but I still lay down and just rest for a little bit. And then I thought I'd talk to you for a little bit. But those emotional releases, they're not all bad. I mean, the emotions leading up to them are what we consider negative emotions usually. Those emotions of grief, of anxiety, of fear, of isolation and loneliness, all those negative emotions. But sometimes just experiencing that and releasing those is such a powerful positive for our health. And after, I often feel better. And I feel this weight has lifted. And I know this is just one more step in this process of, feeling this way about my parents and processing that and everything. But it's something we have to learn to be okay with. And it's okay if you want to go do it by yourself. Trust me, when I was doing it back home, I would go into the closet and my wife would sometimes go looking for me and find me crying in the closet because I'm a guy and I just don't want to do that in front of other people. But she's been extremely supportive and helping me with this, and that's often the case. And it's just one of those things where I think we need to be okay with this, and I think we need to process this, and I think we need to, be okay with our emotions sometimes, even if you need to do it isolated, even if you need to do it on your own. Find something that might trigger you, and a lot of times I don't even know what's about to trigger me, but find something that may trigger you, that might get to that release, so you release some of that. I was just so pent up, and still am, but I've gone from, an 11 on the anxiety, stress, chronic, heightened fight or flight response scale, maybe now to a 7, enough so I can get home tomorrow and do another 6-hour, 7-hour drive and get myself back home as long as the weather stays decent. So I think it was good. And while I'm still struggling with the loneliness right now and isolation, I want nothing more than to have already been home. It was a smart thing for me to do, to step down for a day, process things, and then try to go again tomorrow. So thought I'd share that with you. Talk soon.
Hey, this is Dee. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out our podcast. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. If you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at unevenpodcast.com. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.